Late afternoon, we had heard those reports that 50 hostages might be freed. After those reports, but before we heard about the two women who've actually been released, I discussed the hostage situation with Avi Melamed, a former Israeli intelligence official, and I asked him what he made of the negotiations.
The issue of the hostages is obviously a very complicated one. For Hamas, the issue of the hostages is two edges, sort of speaking. On the one hand, this is a card that Hamas is trying to monetize as much as possible because he views that as some sort of like an insurance policy that maybe will secure its survival. But then on the other hand, as long as he continuing to keep babies and kids and women and old people as hostages, international community obviously is very, unhappy with that, to say the least. On the Israeli side, there is this tension between the need to bring back home the kids and the women and the old people that were kidnapped and kept now in Gaza Strip. But then on the other hand, there is also the whole issue that basically the state of Israel, the government of Israel said, following Hamas attack on October 7, Israel is going to topple down Hamas rule over Gaza Strip. And that's going to be done apparently using a military means and so on. And in addition to that, we got the role of the United States because we got foreign nationalities like the United States and Portugal and others that are also being held hostages by Hamas in Gaza Strip, and that adds to the complexity of the story.
From the Israeli point of view, and given the reports in Washington that the US government is certainly trying to urge the Israeli authorities not to carry out the ground offensive until as much as has been done as possible to release the hostages, do you think that is going to be the priority at this point?
Well, look, President Biden made it very clear. For him, the top priority is obviously to release the all-American hostages. Hamas is trying to do what I call the salami system. But then it's a problem because at some point international community probably will turn to Hamas, including a clear message from the United States, and says, look, you can't keep on going on forever with like releasing 2 people right here and then another week, another 10 people, and then just drag it forever and ever. This is unacceptable.
Is that what you meant when you said the salami system? You meant releasing a few at a time, did you?
Correct.
Given the complexity then of the calculations, what do you think that the Israeli authorities then are prioritizing at the moment?
Well, look, from the Israeli perspective, obviously this is an enormously sensitive issue. At the same time, we have to remember something that is not less significant. On October 7th, there has been an enormous seismic event in the region. And Israel government came up with a very clear, decisive statement of the objective. The objective of Israel is to end Hamas rule in Gaza Strip, to eliminate Hamas military capacities. These are two parallel major, I would say, strategic interests of Israel, meaning bring back home the hostages and continuing the path towards the goal that was set by the Israeli government. So it seems to me like Israel is addressing the issue of the hostages as if there is no war, and addressing the issue of the war and the task of eliminating Hamas military capacities as if there is no issue of hostages. I think this is...
Although the troops haven't gone in yet, have they?
No, but there have been reports about small-scale ground incursions or invasion on a small scale, which I believe has to do partly also with the whole issue of like gathering more intelligence and information, maybe about the whereabouts of the hostages.
It's being reported that Hamas says it's releasing 2 Israeli hostages who've been held in the Gaza Strip. Well, what do you make of that for a start? And secondly, what do you think the chances are of a ceasefire, of Israel agreeing to a ceasefire if it does lead to the release of large numbers of hostages?
Obviously, look, Hamas is trying to play this card, is trying to put pressure on the Israeli government through putting pressure on Israeli public opinion. By these drops of releasing of people, he hopes that basically he could buy time. He could increase friction within Israeli society regarding the issue of how do you manage the whole issue of the hostages. He hopes to basically come in between United States and Israel. It's very clear what Hamas is trying to do.
So no Israeli ceasefire, you believe?
I found it very difficult to believe.
Avi Melamed, former Israeli intelligence official. And as we